giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Oh, yeah. Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live, presented by Boston Scientific. We stream it live on YouTube and Facebook. And, of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker Steele. Boom! What's good, Bomb Squad? Today coming up, we're going to take a look back. We're going to take a quick look back at the past drafts and why I think the Cowboys are moving the way they're moving. There's tendencies, there's reliance that this Cowboy squad does with their draft class. And we'll look back at the past three and see if some of these dudes are ballers or bust. We'll play that game a little bit later. But in the roundup, we got some good news on the Cowboys front. My cousin, he looking good out there. We'll talk about that. Plus, there was a draft nugget that led me to do today's show that I saw rolling around on Twitter. I thought it was interesting, as I always do. And I think that specific nugget gives you the reason why the Cowboys are the way they are and how they're built the way they're built. Which, in one side of it, it's fine, right? But you also have to do other things, and they've done that this offseason, and I'm going to tell you, I think, why they've done that, because they haven't been able to hit as much as they wanted to on certain players. So, here we go. Let's get into this thing. I appreciate y'all for being here, Bomb Squad.
Bomb Squad!
Look, y'all can call in. Today will not be a long show. I know I always say that, but today won't be. I got some things to do after the show. But I do want to hear from you still. 351-999-3787 is the call-in line. Please do so. Come on in. Have a good time. Let's talk about these here Dallas Cowboys. All right, let's get into it, Cowboys Nation.
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time!
Time.
It's time!
Time?
It is time for...
It's time for the morning roundup. Round 'em up, boys.
Oh, they do it! Hey, oh, they do it!
Hey, yo. Farewell, the Bobby Wagner dream. I mean, look, y'all, it was always a dream. I don't think we should have ever got our hopes up to get a Bobby Wagner. He's going back to Seattle, to his old stomping grounds. He's returning home on a 1-year, $7 million deal. Real quick, I mean, I should know the answer to this, but still gonna ask it. Would you have signed Bobby Wagner to a 1-year, $7 million deal? Emphatically, yes. I think there's a number that Stephen Jones has for linebackers, right? And $7 million must have been too much. It must have been too much. They got LVE back on a 1 or 2-year, $6 million deal total, right? So they probably looked at it this way. And I'm not saying this how I looked at it. I think this is how they probably looked at it. Is Bobby Wagner 2 times better than LVE? Yes. He is. But maybe they don't look at it that way. Damone Clark is still, in town, right? You just drafted him last year. Maybe they just look at LVE, Damone Clark moving forward, and you draft a guy and you continue down the kind of the cheaper role at the linebacker position. But 1 year, $7 million, I mean, and I'm pretty sure it's not all $7 million guaranteed. I don't know. The numbers haven't come out yet. What could have been, though? And look, it all lined up. Dan Quinn, Bobby Wagner, the relationship, won a Super Bowl together, been to another Super Bowl. They clearly reached out. That was true, right? They had conversations with Bobby Wagner. The only thing I can think of is just $7 million was too much for Stephen Jones. They said we got Bobby Wagner at home. LVE. So we'll see how Bobby does. Probably looks like maybe his final year. Maybe that's another reason too. Maybe they said we don't want a guy that's on his way out. Wagner likely will be retiring here soon, but I think he got a lot of juice left to give you a push. It'd have been dope to have him here, but he's not. My cousin out here looking good, man. Terence Steele dropped, well, Big Duke dropped a video, and I'll play it here, where Terence Steele was, I mean, what were we, 4 months removed from the surgery? And he's out there moving like that? We heard that he was ahead of schedule about a month or so ago. We actually had the doc on. We talked about that. 14 weeks. There it is. 14 weeks post surgery to repair the ACL, MCL, and Terence Steele was looking like that. Nah, look, I know why they tendered the dude. They didn't want Terence Steele to hit the free agent market because I think he's a quality right tackle with a higher upside to be one of those top tier right tackles. Now, is Lane Johnson type, I ain't saying all that, but one of those right tackles that can hold down the fort for half a decade and you don't have to worry about that position. Terence Steele has 100% put in the work, the effort, and shown the production to be relied on. And just to see him out there moving the way he's moving, working the way he's working, I had no doubt that Terence Steele would come back from this injury. I had no doubt once I heard he was ahead of schedule that he'd be ready for the season because he works like that. But then when you see this video, that should give you immense confidence that Terence Steele is going to be ready. Because I know that was a thing, in Cowboys Nation. Well, Tyron Smith to hold down the fort until Terence gets back. I think Terence is going to be ready. I do. I think he's going to be ready. You look at him right here. We're in March. He doesn't have to do anything significant until August. Cuzzo will be fine. Cuzzo will be fine. I think he's going to have a great season this year, and they're going to have to pay him some bread. This is why I wish they got ahead of it last season. It didn't happen, but it's all good. We need Terence Steele. We need Cuzzo to come out this year and ball his ass off so the Cowboys and get to where they want to get to. Because I don't trust Josh Ball. No, sir, Rebobski. That leads me to this tweet that I saw floating around Twitter that the Cowboys are topsing by a lot, by the way, Cal. Like they lead the league in this by a lot. And let me bring up this tweet right here by one Warren Sharp. Very interesting. Total snaps played in the last 5 years by players a team drafted themselves. The top 10 include Indianapolis, Seattle, Green Bay, Pittsburgh, Cincy, Atlanta, Tampa, Baltimore, Minnesota, and of course, your Dallas Cowboys, number one. Number one, by a mile. 91,000, almost 92,000 snaps by players the Cowboys drafted. Now, you can look at that a multitude of ways. It all depends how you want to spin it here. You can spin it as, well, look, the Cowboys draft so well, they play their guys. That's true. They do draft well. Go also look at it as the only team in that top 10 that's won a Super Bowl by doing that was Tampa Bay. And that took Tampa Bay going out and getting the greatest quarterback of all time. Plus, right? Not just him, but him plus X, Y, and Z in free agency or via trade. The other team on there that been to the Super Bowl, that went to the Super Bowl, is Cincinnati. But let's remember, that was the same team that went out and spent the year before and the year of as well. So, I mean, it's telling when you look at the list. Now, this isn't the end all be all, but again, one team in that top 10 has won a Super Bowl. And the only other team to get there in that top 10 in the last 5 years, Cincinnati. Bottom 10, you got Jacksonville, Arizona, Tennessee, the Chargers, Buffalo, Houston, New York, Rams, Jets, and Vegas. The only team in that bottom 10 to get there, of course, is the Rams, and we all understand how they did what they did. And the other team to get to the AFC championship or championship game will be Buffalo. Top 10, bottom 10. I think you could take something away from this that you kind of got to be in the middle, right? Like you want to be in the middle. You don't have to be, but you kind of want to be in the middle. I don't necessarily know that you want to be leading the NFL in this statistical category unless you're mixing it in. And I don't know if you necessarily want to be last in the NFL in this situation either. I think you have to come to a middle ground unless you're going to be drastic like the Rams were. And let's be real, kind of like Tampa Bay was. Tampa Bay was a bit drastic when they went out and got Tom Brady and Gronk and AB and JPP and the Dominican Sue. And they didn't just sit on their hands and rely on their drafted guys. They said, we got to go get some people. And another thing that it showed me was that something we already knew. Dallas hadn't, until now, relied on outside acquisitions to be major contributors. They've relied on fringe guys that they hope they hit the jackpot with. And you know, look, they did. They did it with J-Ron Curse. They hit the jackpot. But for the most part, they did not, you know. And this is what we already knew, though. We already knew that the Cowboys don't go out. They don't spend a ton of money or a ton of draft capital on major contributors. Let me put it that way. They'll get the Nolan Carrolls of the world. The Daryl Worleys. They'll try to go with the Randall Cobbs, these guys, and hope that they can contribute and hit the jackpot. And you'll get a Randall Cobb year. You'll get a J-Ron Curse year. But they didn't make that significant trade until this year, to get that significant guy until this year. And I think when you look at that statistic, and as we're about to kind of review these draft classes over the last 3 years, I think when you look at these two things, you see why the Cowboys decided to jump a little bit. There was already a ton of evidence proving that you had to do some jumping. But I don't know who it was in the front office, if it was Will, whoever it was that had to give them a little nudge and say, hey, look, man, I know we draft well, but we can't just rely on this, because look what happened when we tried to do that. A couple of the positions that they were relying on to take that leap, they actually had to go out and get via draft capital. Fortunately, it didn't cost them a ton, and they were able to get productive dudes that I think are going to help immensely. Actually, dudes, not just fringe guys, but dudes. But when we look at these draft classes, there's some hits for sure. But I've been saying this for a couple years. They draft well, but the way they build a team, they have to draft better. And here's why. Let's take a look at the 2020 draft class to start with. Now, we're going to play a little game of baller, bust, or bland. That's what we'll call it. Whether they were a baller, whether they were a bust, or they just kind of been meh, they kind of been bland. Now, when I say bust, I don't necessarily mean they're going to be a bust, or this is a 7th-round pick is a bust. Obviously, if you're a 7th-round pick, technically you're not. But we're just talking about for the Cowboys, right? Have they contributed to be labeled a baller, a bust, or just kind of been bland? Obviously, CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs, absolute ballers. Absolute ballers. We don't even have to play around with that. They're up for their extensions. We talked about that on Friday. 2 of the best in the league, in my opinion. 2 top 10 wide receiver, top 5 cornerback. CeeDee Lamb's trending to that top 5 territory. They're only going to get better. Absolute ballers in this 2020 draft class. And obviously they headline the 2020 draft class. Easy. Ballers. Don't got to go far. Neville Gallimore. Baller, bust, or just bland? I'm going to roll with bland. I don't think Neville's a baller. I don't necessarily think he's a bust, because he's been a contributor his first 2 years. And then last year he was a fringe rotation guy. But I'm going to go bland. And if I had to, I'm bland on the low end bland, because he got his position taken. As a 3rd round pick, the Cowboys were counting on Neville Gallimore to kind of take that leap to be that dude. But I wonder if he is going to face kind of the same fate that because I don't think he's been as good as him. I was going to say Crawford. You know how they asked Crawford to put on some weight, lose weight, put on weight, lose weight. I think Gallimore saw the Cowboys go out and get bigger at the defensive tackle position, saw the Cowboys go out and get more athletic at the defensive tackle position, and he kind of got lost in the sauce. He either needed to get more athletic or he needed to get bigger, because he wasn't as athletic as in Osa, who can be that quick twitch, penetrating 3-tech, and he wasn't as big as the Arkansas big country kid and Bohanna. He wasn't as big as those guys, so he put on some weight. It didn't work out. So I think Neville Gallimore has been a bit bland, if we're being completely honest here. To the point that they might be looking to move on from Neville Gallimore. He didn't play a lot last year. He sat some. He was not active. He didn't play in the playoffs much. So big year for Gallimore. 100% big year for Gallimore. Robinson, obviously a bust. He's no longer with the team. And again, though, you can't have these bland and busts in round 3 and 4 when you rely on the draft the way the Cowboys have. Tyler Biadasz. That's a baller. My bad, y'all. Pro Bowl center Tyler Biadasz. That's a baller, bro. That's a baller. Round 4 guy came in, played a little bit his first year, gets hurt. Second year showed some improvement, but we still were like, let's bring you some competition. They didn't do it. Third year, I thought that was Tyler Biadasz's best year. Now, I'm playing around, joking a little bit when I say Pro Bowl. But look, man, Tyler Biadasz had a fine year. He hasn't given up a sack, I believe, since his rookie year or something crazy like that. Maybe it's I think since his rookie year. He hasn't given up a sack in over 1,000 pass rushing snaps. He's not going to be a road grader or nothing like that. I think he is intelligent enough to get to the second level and angle off blocks. He's not going to maul guys, but I think he is a stable part of the offensive line right now. And I think you saw that, right? When he went out, Tyler Biadasz, left. They moved McGovern over, and there was some things that didn't work out. So Tyler Biadasz to me is a baller. He's up for a contract extension. I wonder if he's a sneaky guy. Maybe we'll do a show again like we did last year when we said, who's next? Wonder if Biadasz is a sneaky guy to get a cheap extension. But here's a problem. It might not be cheap. Because he went to the Pro Bowl, and I don't care if you don't like the Pro Bowl. If I'm an agent, when I sit down at that table to negotiate, my guy's a Pro Bowler. Price goes up. Bradley and Ben DiNucci, bust. Anai was a fan favorite for a while, but he bust out. Ben DiNucci, it is what it is. Round 7 quarterback, not that good at all. So they bust. Both of these guys busted out. So in the 2020 draft class, you got 3 ballers and you got 3 busts and a kind of meh guy that's probably not going to make the roster. Any team would be glad to have 2 Pro Bowlers and All-Pro, actually 3 Pro Bowlers from a draft. So this is an absolute dub for the Cowboys to land 3 Pro Bowlers. You hate the fact that, you had a bust in a guy like a Gallimore or Robinson, because those are positions that the Cowboys are currently still trying to replenish, and just keep going. And you'll see why at one point you had to be so good in this drafting thing. Like, they're good, but they had to hit on guys like round 3 and 4 at these positions, because now you're chasing that position because you don't want to go out and spend money. All right. We'll get to 2021 in a second, but let's hit up the phone lines. We got our guy Los on a horn. What's good, Los?
Good morning, Sky, man. I hope you're having a great morning. It's another Monday, man.
Yes, sir.
Sooner or later, that draft is going to come out of nowhere, and then we're going to be like, damn, it's already here.
I think, what are we, a month away?
Go ahead.
We're about a month away now?
Yep, like around, a month away. It'll probably be around 8. Yep. So let me just get to the quick point. Let me say this, Sky. We can never go back in time. So it's talking about the old draft class, it still hurts me today because of all the opportunities we missed out on previous players. But in thinking that, like, there's opportunities that we have picked up CeeDee Lamb and other players that we would have not had an opportunity to pick up, if we did pick up, let's say, Water or anything. But in saying that, I really do think in this year, I hope they learn from the mistakes, from the Tristan Hills of the world to Tacos of the world, because I think when you said it, Sky, whenever they drafted those players, it was based off position need and not best player available. So I think with us getting Gilmore, with us getting Cook, you can already knock those two positions out, which is wide receiver and cornerback, because we already got veteran Prentice there. So I really do think that whoever comes in at 26, like Vosh said, there are going to be some question marks, because, you got to know the game of the NFL level. But the thing that makes me the most excited is Mike and Dan Quinn. Is coaching matters, guy. And I think whoever you bring in will get coached and knowing the NFL level of play. And one thing I harped at is knowing your personnel and putting them in the right situation to succeed, which in my hard opinion, you can see that Kellen Moore wasn't more of a, I don't know. I just feel like his play style was more of a not putting your players in to succeed, but let's try to get points. And that kind of bothered me. So let's just see what we can get out there. And I know coaching is not going to be a problem, in my opinion, but I feel like whoever we pick up at 26 better be either A, Dan Quinn, personnel guy, or B, make this offense easier for Mike McCarthy, and that's just my opinion on it.
All right, man. Appreciate it, Carlos.
No problem.
I tell you what about this draft, 26, whatever. 11 picks last year. What, they got 7 now? They traded a couple picks. Seven picks this year. That's 18 as opposed to 20. I can't see 18 guys being contributors on this team. And that's what you want. Right? I shouldn't say contributors. Yeah, I will say contributors. Damn it. Yeah, I'll say contributors. And that's why I think it's important to do what the Cowboys did this offseason. Go out and get a Cooks. Go out and get a Stephon Gilmore. Because if they hadn't done that, realistically, we'd have been looking at both of those positions like, hey, man, I need third-round wide receiver to come in here and push a Jalen Tolbert. I need first or second-round wide receiver or cornerback to come in here and take over for cornerback 2 or 3 or what have you. They don't necessarily have to rely on these dudes. That's always been my thing. Like, yes, you want to draft well, and some rookies are going to have to rely on, but you really want them to be a part of this thing and not the thing. Micah Parsons aside, Micahs are, they're rare. Even CeeDee Lamb, who had a fantastic rookie year, was a part of it. He wasn't a guy you was leaning on. You still had Cooper, you still had Gallup that was healthy, and then you inserted a CeeDee Lamb. By getting Cook, by getting Gilmore, I don't think you're relying on this draft to kind of carry you. You can kind of draft and develop like they want to do without that pressure. Let's look at the 2021 draft class. Again, the baller, bust, or bland is not about writing these guys off or the story being written already if they are great, right? This is just about right this second. How would you judge these players as contributors for this team? Come on now. Michael Parsons, a goddamn baller. The best goddamn on defensive player in the NFL. Point blank, period. And we leave it at that. Dude is transcendent. You got athletes coming out that they're saying, who's the next Micah Parsons? Ain't one. Cowboys got 101 and just leave it at that. And no 9 deep, Isaiah Simmons ain't Micah Parsons. And I'm not trading no goddamn first, second round pick to go get no Isaiah Simmons. Sorry. Kelvin Joseph. Baller, bust, or bland? This is clearly a bust. Now, I know there's going to be people that say his story's not written. It's not over. It's true. That's true. But we're talking about as we speak right now, whether it's 1 year removed or just last year draft class. At this second, he's been a bust. There's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And And look, with the Cowboys, the way they move, and I'm going to keep saying this to remind y'all, because a lot of people are going to say, oh, we can't judge this, or we can't do that. Yeah, we can. The Cowboys, you absolutely can, because they do rely on these rookies to be impactful like this. This is the way they set it up. So Kelvin Joseph has been a bust. You are in the situation you are at cornerback because of Kelvin Joseph. Let's just be real. He was drafted to take Anthony Brown's spot. Whether you want to blame it on what happened in the off field, he wasn't mentally right. Hey, man, that's a conversation for another day. The bottom line, as a contributor, he hasn't been one. And he hasn't been a good one, at least. So, his story is not over. It's not fully written. He's got a chance to do something, but he's already a little ticked off. They went out and got a Gilmore. They wouldn't have had to go out and get a Gilmore if he wasn't a bust. Osa Odigizua, baller, bust, or bland? Osa a baller to me. Odigizua, that's a baller to me, man. He started to come along too. He was one of your more productive guys in the postseason. I thought he had a solid rookie year to build on. Got a little bigger in the offseason. I think Osa's arrow continues to point up. Now, was he the 8-sack guy that I wanted him to be year two? No. And I think I know the reason for that. I think this interior defensive line wasn't asked to be upfield penetrators all the time. They were asked to be kind of demolition dummies. And I thought Osa in the playoffs showed up. I think Osa's a baller. I think he's going to continue to get better. Year 3 should be Osa's best year. And I'm hoping it's so good that they have to have a conversation moving forward about what to do with him after year 3. Meaning whether we continue to play out the rookie deal or we look to try to get ahead, because they used to do that. They used to get ahead of some of these guys. That's the type of year I'm hoping and expecting from Osa, where they put the front office in a bind. Year 3 with Dan Quinn, I would like to look back at when Grady Jarrett started to break out with Dan Quinn. Now, I know he went to the Super Bowl with Dan Quinn that year. He had a fantastic season, but maybe we get that year 3 breakout. But the Cowboys 100% need one of these interior guys to break out, whether it be Osa, who I believe is a baller, or Chauncey Golston. Baller, bust, bland. Chauncey Golston. I'm going to go with bland. But this is more on the high end of the bland, not necessarily the low end like Neville. I think there is upside with Chauncey. I think you see him flash, but not enough to just label him a flat out baller just yet. Not a bust either. Not a bust either. However, big year for Chauncey, because he's a round 3 guy, and like I've been saying, when you build the team the way you build the team, you need those round 3 guys to be somebody. And Chauncey right now is kind of a fringe rotational guy. They ask to put some weight on to move inside or play that 5 tech when they go into the odd front. I think he's a solid player. I think his arrow is also pointing up, but I don't think he's done enough to be labeled a baller just yet. But I think he's on that cusp of being one. We just got to see it throughout the season, right? So I think he's on the bland side, but I think he has a potential to elevate himself into being a baller. But we got to see it, Cowboys Nation. We got to see it. Nahshon Wright, baller, bust, or bland? Got to go with bust. Got to go with bust. Funny thing is, when this draft happened, if you guys remember, he might have been the most controversial pick. Nahshon Wright had to be the most controversial pick because you had some draft analysts saying he was undrafted type of guy. He's a 7th round type of guy. And the Cowboys went and I mean, let's be honest, man. They reached the way we're looking at it. They reached for a Nahshon Wright in round 3, and this is an obvious bust here. Not even just for the fact of what I've been saying, right? Where, hey, third round guys got to contribute, but Nahshon hasn't been able to stick. He's barely even sticking on special teams. I mean, guys are kind of coming in and out and being special team guys. Now, year one, Nahshon did some things on special teams for you. But you drafted in the third round, especially when a Kelvin Joseph kind of flops out. AB gets hurt. J. Lou gets hurt. Opportunities there for you. Didn't take it. They decided to go out and get a bunch of street free agents. Same thing with Kelvin Joseph. Had Nahshon been a 6th rounder or something like that, maybe I'd say bland. But in the third round, I need you. I need you, man. I need you. And I'm actually more on the low end with Nahshon Wright of the bland. I'm sorry, of the bust, as opposed to potentially being able to move up into the bland department. Again, Kelvin Joseph, Nahshon Wright are why you're going out to get Stephon Gilmore. That's why you're going out to get those guys. Round 4, Jabril Cox. Baller, bust, or bland. Same thing for the other two guys. They got to go bust. Got to go bust. And I like Jabril Cox. Linebacker position that could use some youth, or could have used some youth. Some athleticism. Towards ACL, didn't get a chance to show it. Next year, didn't get a chance to get in the rotation. Maybe he wasn't ready coming off the ACL injury. But as we speak right now, I think you have to label it a bust. He hasn't done enough to be a baller. I don't even think he's played enough to be even labeled bland. So you're just not playing. So you got to be a bust to me. Again, this isn't saying these guys' stories are written. It's just as we speak right now, baller, bust, or bland, Jabril Cox got to be a bust. He hasn't played. Josh Ball. Bust. Moving on. I don't need to explain myself. I don't think the guy's good. Yeah. I'm not supposed to be so hard on, but look, man. I don't even know how he has a roster spot, in my opinion. Don't think he's good. Simi Fehoko. Baller, bust, or bland. This one is tough for me, man, because what I saw in camp would lead me to say bland. But we're talking about being a contributor, and I got to go with bust. I hate that for Simi because I like his upside. I like his upside. I think he's gonna piss some people off at camp in a good way. He's gonna push some people. He is the kind of prototypical Mike McCarthy wide receiver, believe it or not, when he was with the Packers. Size, speed, he's physical, he's got quick feet. I think got more consistent with his hands in camp than the previous year. I think got more comfortable. But again, the offense that Kellen was running. Now, he's smart, too. Went to Stanford. He talked about him being able to pick things up. It relied on wide receivers having that trust ability with the quarterback and the offensive coordinator. I think Simi could be sneaky this year. Sneaky to make this roster and push somebody. But, unfortunately, I got to call him a bust because he just hasn't been a contributor. Quentin Bohanna, a.k.a. Big Bo, baller, bust, or bland? I think this is an easy one. I think Bo has been bland more than baller, although he had some baller moments. But he's definitely not a bust to me. Rotational interior guy, kind of been your only, if we're being honest, you go look at the last two seasons, 2020 or 2021, 2022, Bohanna's been your only one-tech guy that's been available for you. Hankins in and out the lineup. You cut Big Country. They had Hamilton the year before, in and out. Then he was cut. Neville's been in and out. Bohanna just been sticking around. And while Bohanna hasn't been spectacular, he has been a baller, I don't necessarily think he's been a bust either, especially in round 6. let's see what he does year 3. I would say the arrow is not pointing down or up. I think Bo is probably what Bo is going to be, but I saw some improvement last year. So, if he can improve again, I think you're looking at a staple in regards to being part of the rotation. Now, if he kind of just tails off or he dips below, that's where another drafted guy can kind of push Bohanna, or you sign a couple guys, they push Bohanna. But I think Bohanna is in a good spot here, man. They don't have any other one techs on the roster. He's been reliable, healthy. He showed some slight improvement, and he did some things where it was like, did he do some 3-tech things? He got a lot quicker than I thought he'd be for a guy his size. But I think they want him to be Hankins, right? Just stick him over top of the center and say, occupy these 2 gaps, keep these guys clean. Bo was doing some good things first 6 weeks of that season. I think he got hurt in the Washington game, and he really wasn't much of a difference maker after that. Israel Mukuamu, baller. Let me tell you this about Izzy. Israel Mukuamu could have sat the entire season and then did what he did in the playoffs, and I will call him a baller. Easy. What he did in the playoffs was impressive, ladies and gentlemen. Hadn't been playing corner all year. Gets a favorable matchup. And it played out perfect, too. The Cowboys, they played the Bucks, so you get the big slot. And then they come out the next week, they get the Niners, you get another big slot. They like to play Jennings in that slot. So the matchup was perfect. And I thought Izzy looked really good. He looked confident. He looked more physical this year. You want to talk about improvements year over? I mean, there's not many young guys that had the improvement that Israel Mukuamu had year over on the team. You're probably talking putting Bo. Bo had a good, he improved, but I think I'd put Izzy that improved more. I don't know, man. I don't know too many rookies in that draft class that improved more than Izzy. I think Osa improved, but I think Izzy's jump was bigger. I think Golston improved, but I think Izzy's jump was bigger. Micah, come on, Micah's Micah. But we're the guys after Micah. I think Izzy had the biggest jump. Izzy had the biggest jump, and I think Israel Mukuamu, man, look, you keep Dan Quinn here. He's a chess piece. I'm excited to see what Dan does with him this year. And then Matt Forniak, I would also go with Bland. He got in a little bit as a rookie last year. He played some. He wasn't the greatest, but he's probably more on the low end of Bland, borderline bust. But he played. He didn't play great, but he gives you some interior versatility. So I'll roll with Bland for Matt Forniak. Huge draft class here. They elected to keep everybody. It's just like they did last year, and I think you got 3 ballers out this draft class and a ton of busts, but when you elect to keep all your picks like this, you got to hit on a lot. They hit on a few. They hit on, obviously, the big one, Micah Parsons. But we might be looking back at this, depending on how they feel about Izzy, we might only be looking at one guy that returns. And I know it's early, but right now, I don't think anybody will be pounding the table to re-sign any of these dudes. And it's early, again, but some of these guys have to improve this year. The only other guy outside of Micah would be Izzy, and Izzy kind of has to find his way into a starting role. We want to see what he can do as a starter or as a core rotational player. But that'd be upsetting if we don't see more improvement from Osa. And not saying he's been bad, but enough to sign him. We got to see more. That would suck if Micah's the only guy that gets a second contract here. For a team that relies heavily on draft, we need these guys to improve, period. Yeah, Jerry, I like Osa, right? But ask you the question, would you be ready right now to extend Osa Odighizuwa to an above market type of contract? And get Osa Odighizuwa back on some low end type of contract, sign me up. But maybe you get a situation where Osa year 4 does what Dorrance did, and now you can bring him back on that type of deal. But right now, there's only one guy I'm stamping, and that's Micah Parsons. So you hope that, Osa and Izzy can be guys that improve and you sign them back. 832, what it is? What it do?
Yes, sir. Good morning. How you doing, Skywalker?
I'm doing fantastic, good sir.
Hey, man. Good to talk to you again. This is Mark again. I was in Arizona when I talked to you last. I'm back in at least I'm back in the state of Texas. Love your show again. Thank you again for taking my call. Hey, man, that stuff with Izzy McCormick, man. My thought on that, man, and that's a good kid. I think that he's got something. My thought on Izzy, man, he's probably J-Ron. As this is down the road a bit, maybe a year or two, I think he's J-Ron Kirsch's replacement. If I got Dan Quinn figured on anything, I know he likes to have guys that are versatile, that he can have, do different things back there. Yeah. And I just get that feeling from Mukwamu that he's going to be J-Ron Kirsch 2.0. I would love that. I think he can do some of the same things J-Ron does. I don't know if he has the command of the scheme yet, because naturally he's a younger player. So we'll have to see. And to your point about him having to improve, there's a lot of that's from the neck up that's got to get better. But everything else is there, man. He's physical enough. He's got the traits. I think he's got the instincts, and he's got dog in him. I think he's going to be J-Ron Kirsch in a couple of years, and we're not going to miss a beat in that regard.
Yeah,
I think we also, man. No, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
No, the safety room is fun to look at for the future, man. You got Hooker and you got Curse here for this year. You got Dono extended who can play that role too. Izzy, and then we all like Marquise Bell coming out too. So if Izzy continues to show, look, I would have never said he's a J-Ron Curse replacement his rookie year. He was not a physical dude, but then in camp and in preseason he showed like, oh, Izzy done stepped up his physicality, and then he showed that he can cover some of these wide receivers. So I mean, hey, Izzy might be a guy to look at in that role, but he seems like a chess piece to me, a guy you can move around all over the field.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, look, no doubt, man. Hey, you can't have enough versatile players in the league. That's kind of what the league is and where it's been. And speaking of versatility, man, I've always been this way about Micah Parsons, a dog, a beast. Hey, man, back him up off the line a couple of steps. I get that he's elite at a pass rusher, but he's elite, period. That's a guy that's a chess piece.
Oh, yeah, man. He's the biggest chess piece on that team.
Yeah, hey, man, he's the king, he's the queen, he's the rook, he's the bishop, he all over the place.
Yeah.
Look, what I've always felt you do with a guy like him, all those Lawrence Taylor comparisons, which are valid given what Micah can do, I would rather, man, hey, look, move him around, let him pick, like you and Blatch always say, man, let Micah pick the scrub. Don't stick him on one end of the line and say, hey, man, go from here all game.
Yeah.
No, man, let him pick a scrub and watch these offensive coordinators panic. Because you know he's coming, you don't know where, you don't know when. Move him around and go get you some people that's going. If you want to play 4-3, man, go get you some people to pass rush on the end. You can't tell me you drafted Sam Williams, even though that's kind of another future thing too. We trying to wait on D-Law to do whatever it is going to happen with him. But you can't tell me you're not going getting these D-ends because you already got a D-end in Micah Parsons. No, you got a linebacker, off-ball linebacker necessarily in Micah Parsons who can come over the nose, who can come in that B-gap, who can come off the edge, who could get there. Mike's a dog. Parsons is a guy you tell him sick him, and he goes and gets it. Just let him go get him wherever he wants. Let him pick the scrub, and he's going to wreck the set. Let him do that. Don't put him on the edge and leave him there.
Yeah, I mean, don't leave him there, but you could put him there from time to time. But I hope they listened to him where he was saying, look, I would like to play backer sometimes. He was a bit pissed off about that. Yeah, but appreciate the call, man. We'll keep it moving, brother.
Okay, yeah. Thanks a lot, man. Thank you. Keep it going, sir.
No problem at all. We got to keep it moving. A bit behind already. But let's get to the last draft class. Now, this one we're going to fly through a little bit faster because, again, this isn't about this thing being written. Like, these guys aren't done. This is not over. They clearly only had 1 year. But we're talking about their production now. And with the team that relies on rookies to be a productive part of rotations, right? That's where the whole baller, buster, bland thing comes in. So Tyler Smith, baller. Easy peasy. Showed you he can handle whatever you threw at him. Whether we want to nitpick how good he was at either position, the bottom line is that Tyler Smith, when he was at tackle, your offense wasn't worse off because he was tackle. When he was at guard, your offense wasn't worse off because he was at guard. And for a rookie who is able to handle those things like that, I think is extremely impressive. He's got the size, he's got the athleticism, he's got the demeanor, he's got the intelligence. He showed you that he can be the total package. He was the best rookie offensive lineman last year, or tackle at the very least. So easy here, baller. I just hope that they decide to pick something for him to do and let him hone his craft and do it, because I think if they allow him to just hone his craft at a specific position, Tyler Smith is going to be really damn good at whatever you ask him to do. There's people that don't want him at tackle that think he'll be an elite guard. There's people that don't want him at guard that think he'll be a top tier tackle. I say at this point, man, he showed me enough. I don't care what they decide to do with him. Just figure out what to do with him. I'm not going to sit here and squabble about either or, because he showed you he can play both. So let him continue to be a baller. Sam Williams, a.k.a. Slam Williams, baller. Another easy one here. Dude didn't play as many reps as you would think, and he still was one of your most productive guys, pass rushers out there from a reserve standpoint. What do you have? 4 sacks this year, fumble recoveries, couple forced fumbles. Sam Williams could have one of those year 2 jumps that makes this franchise look differently at the position. Are we talking enough about Sam? You know, I know we've been looking at a few of these edge guys in the draft when we're having these draft shows or whatnot. We're falling in love with some of these Georgia cats and whatnot, but Sam Williams looked pretty damn good to me. It looks every bit as athletic, maybe not as bendy as some of these other trendy dudes, but the dude is deranged and I love it. Sam play like a psycho, and you need some of that on your team. Now you continue to coach him up, continue to work on his fundamentals. He was one of your guys who got a ton of tackles for loss and he can get after the quarterback. I think the upside for Sam Williams is tremendous. I think it's tremendous. I am hoping that he's a starter for this team. I think there's just way more to be gained by having Sam Williams as a starter. Excuse me. Than Dorrance Armstrong. And there's no knock on DA. I just think that Sam's upside and potential is so much higher. His ceiling is so much higher. I don't think his floor is that much different than Dorrance Armstrong, to be honest. Now, yes, Dorrance had a fantastic start to the season. Don't get me wrong. He played clean up and he made some plays better than a lot of those dudes at the early part of the season. But who stepped up after that fizzled out? Sam Williams. So I'd like to see Sam Williams move forward. Jalen Tolbert. Bust. Easy one. And this is one where I think he would even say it. He came out and said it. I did not have, this is the worst season I've ever had in my life. I wasn't sure what I was doing. I was trying to learn and play. This is a guy that is a bust right now. And am I saying, look, you're new, you just jumped in. Whoa, Scott calling these players bust. We're talking about their contributions as they were drafted. He was a bust in regards to being a contributor year 1, where he was basically relied upon to be a contributor. Your own owner said he was supposed to contribute and he didn't, so he's a bust right now. Now, he's a bust with the potential to be clearly a baller because he has that talent and he's only a year in. All right. So nobody's out on Jalen Tolbert, but Jalen Tolbert has to ascend beyond that bust moniker right now. And he knows that. Again, it's a guy like Jalen Tolbert, whether we want to say it's harsh or not, is the reason why you have to go out and you got to go get a Brandon Cooks. And this is what makes the Cowboys drafting different than any in the league. They do rely on these guys. So when they don't hit, it does hurt them. Jake Ferguson, come on, man. AKA Baby Kelsey, come on, man. I'm up a baller, man. Ferg's a baller. We've had a bunch of passionate debates on the tight end position. I know how I feel about Jake Ferguson. I think he can hold down the fort there. Peyton Hendershot, you could maybe include in this as well. We didn't do that with some other undrafted guys, but Jake Ferguson's a baller. Whether you think he's tight end 1 or tight end 2, he's going to be a baller at one of those positions. 90-something receiving yards, something like that, and over 70% of them came off yak. Well, I want a guy that can do stuff after the catch. Jake can do that. He's got wiggle for his size. He's got fight on the interior. Again, a former linebacker. Is he Gronk? Like, is he Mercedes Lewis as a blocker? No, but he's an inline guy that blocks, that comes from the Big Ten, that will fight. So he can be versatile for you. Jake Ferguson, a goddamn baller. Matt, well, let's go. Gonna go bust here. Going to go bust with Matt Willetsko, but I think there's upside for him to ascend to, at the very least, as a bland player. I like Willetsko's athleticism. I think he could be a fantastic pass blocker if he gets a little bit stronger, like his feet. He's just a hurt guy, man. And had I known about that coming into the draft, maybe I would look at this draft pick a bit different. But the whole shoulder thing, he had issues with it in college. He had issues with it in camp, and he had issues with it during the season. Now maybe he gets surgery, gets corrected, but you know, I don't like hurt guy. I don't like hurt guy. And I noticed there was a pick missing here. I gotta holler at Sosa. I know it's a pick missing, but let's go. I would go with bust right now, upside to hit the territory of bland, to be like a swing tackle. Before we get to actual bland, Damone Clark is not listed, but Damone Clark is another 5th round guy. I would put Damone Clark, believe it or not, I put Damone Clark in the baller. That might be one of the more rich categories that I've done so far with the player. I think Damone Clark, I think is a baller in general. I think Damone Clark, when he was thrown into the Wolves, without camp, without preseason, without practices, all like that, he held it down very well. Now then, that was with LVE and those guys, right, in Barr. But then when LVE went down, I thought you saw Clark have to go through some growing pains. But he never was supposed to come in here and be the guy running the defense that early. That's why they brought in the Barr. That's why they brought in the LVE, or kept in LVE. But he kind of got thrown up the ladder. And he showed some promise, but he also showed that, hey, I'm a rookie that ain't played a lot. It's going to take some time for me to kind of grasp everything as the quarterback. But I don't hold that against him and knock him down to a bland or a bust. I think Damone Clark's a baller. I think the film shows he's a baller. And I think Damone Clark has a chance to be a core player at that second level. So I got Damone Clark as a baller, and I think he's going to be a core of this draft class. Duron, anything but bland. Goddamn baller. Come on now. Duron Bland, man, was so much fun to watch this year. So much fun to watch. And I thought it was interesting when you look at camp and when you look at the preseason. There was a play in Seattle where Duron Bland got beat and gave up a touchdown. And I'm sitting there at the game and I'm like, good. Because Duron Bland wasn't getting beat. He wasn't getting beat in camp. He wasn't getting beat in preseason. We had to see how will he respond. Because that's really what matters. Like, you're going to get beat in this league at cornerback. How do you respond? He responded with pass breakups. He responded with sticky coverage. He responded being physical. making hits, making tackles, coming down and getting tackles for losses and at the line of scrimmage. I said, oh, we got one. To the point where the conversation started to happen around Cowboys Nation. Shit, is this your cornerback 3? Cornerback 4? Not just like, oh, hey, you know, special team guy, cornerback 6, 7. No. DaRon Bland showed up and showed the hell out in preseason, showed out in training camp. DaRon Bland is the opposite of the Kelvin Joseph and Nashawn Wrights. In fact, he's the reason why you can be comfortable moving on from Anthony Brown. He's the reason why you can say, all right, I'll go get a Stephon Gilmore, and I got my slot guy in the DaRon Bland. Yes, indeed, I believe he's your slot guy. Look, J-Lo. You want your spot back? You don't want to get Wally Pipp? Go beat DaRon Bland. Ain't a chance in hell, Cowboys Nation. Not a chance. I'm taking DaRon Bland off the field without him getting beat. There's no way you can watch DaRon Bland last year play in the slot, be physical, come up and tackle, cover, playmaker, all of that, and say, you know what? Jordan Lewis is back. Let's go ahead and slide Jordan Lewis back in there and let's roll. Nope. I'm not saying you're giving anything to anybody, but I'm saying Jordan Lewis is going to have to beat DaRon Bland if I'm the coach. They're going to piss J. Lou off. Yup. Good. In fact, I'll probably tell him that. I'll probably tell him that in front of DaRon Bland's face. I don't know. That might not be good for morale. But I'm not letting Jordan Lewis just take it back because he's a veteran. This rookie showed that he was a beast, and he came up big, and he's an absolute baller. John Ridgeway, unfortunately, got labeled him a bust. Maybe partly not his fault. Cowboys were stubborn. Look, Jerry Jones was, I don't know who called this. This was an absolute idiotic thing to do with Dak Prescott, not putting him on IR. But let's just be real. You cut him because you didn't want to put Dak on IR, and you were reluctant to move off of Josh Ball. Now, John Ridgeway was definitely your worst defensive tackle in camp in preseason. So there's that. But I thought he was going to be safe for the season because he was a drafted guy. He was a 5th round drafted guy, and they hadn't cut a guy like that before they even, got out the season in a long time because they covered those draft picks. They could have hit him with a, hey, big country, he's picking up that hay out there. Your back, guy? Tweak your back? Nah, coach, I'm good. Nah, you hurt. IR. Rest of the year. So it was a bunch of other players they could have, in my opinion, got rid of to keep him if they saw something, or just hit him with an IR. But he's a bust. He did nothing for the Cowboys, but they drafted him in the 5th round. Again, 5th rounds normally, who gives a damn? But for the Cowboys, if you're not going to be active, you need these guys. And then Devin Harper, another out of his control, but a bust. This is a bust that I like, though. This is a bust with upside to be, at the very least, bland, and meaning he can be a special teams contributor and you would love for him to kind of develop like an Anthony Hitchens did, right? When a guy goes down, he steps in, and you're like, oh, this guy can actually be our starter. You would love for him to develop into an Anthony Hitchens type of role. I remember when Hitch was drafted, I think in the 4th round, people viewed Hitch as a reach. And he ended up being a fantastic linebacker for you. Fantastic. So we got what? 1, 2, 3, 4 ballers out of this draft, man. 5, actually. I didn't. Damone Clark. I labeled him 5. 5 ballers out of this draft. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's great. That's great. This class has a chance to be something here, man. Now, I'm not going to talk about extensions or anything like that because we got years to go, but this class got a chance to be really damn good. And look, I understand we got a Micah, but I think this class has potential to be better than that class as a total. Micah's Micah, but I think this class has a really good chance to ascend past that. So that's our ballers, bust or bland segment reviewing the draft, and we talk about this all the time, man. The Cowboys have to draft well and better because the way that they team build. But I think because of the guys like Nashawn and what happened with Tolbert and Neville, hell, we can say Neville if you want, but Kelvin Joseph, guys like that, they look back and said, all right, look, draft develop sounds good, but can we rely on these dudes moving forward? I know we like to say, oh, they'll just improve. What if they don't? What if what happened last year happens again? Now you're not improving your team. You're not relying on hope. So they went out and got guys, Cooks. They went and got a Gilmore. And I don't think they have to rely on the drafted guys like a Nashawn Wright, like a Kelvin Joseph, or whoever the hell they draft this year to get them over the hump. And that's how it should be, in my opinion. That's how it should be. All right, let's get into the last phone call. But before we do that, let's talk about Boston Scientific, Cowboys Nation. In the U.S., more than 39 million men suffer from ED. And Boston Scientific has created edcure.org to help you find your best cure. Here's how you get started. You go to the website, you take the quiz, and you learn the severity or risk that you have of ED. If you do have anything that puts you at a higher risk, they have customized content for you. The fastest way to find your best cure is to contact an ED specialist in your area, browsing a list, and visiting the website. That's edcure.org, brought to you by Boston Scientific. Say it with. It ain't hard, but you can be.
You're listening to A to Z Sports.
Do it live!
At some point, hoping to broadcast
In front of the millions.
of Cowboys fans to bring you the real. But for now, strap up and here's your host, Skywalker Steele.
I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you.
We'll do it live.
Jeez. The reptile dysfunction was crazy. What happened to that kid? Was his name Connor? What was his name? We had a kid. If you're new here, we had a kid call in. Really cool kid. But we had Boston Scientific as a, sponsor, and I felt weird having to do that read. I think it was King Element. He called it reptile dysfunction. Oh, good stuff. Reptile dysfunction. Let's get back on the horns and wrap this thing up. DJ, what's good, brother?
Hey, what's good, Sky? How you doing this morning, brother?
I'm doing great, man. How are you?
Oh, fantastic. Hey, so I came in a little late, had a meeting this morning, so I kind of caught the show right about 10 minutes before I called in around 9:30. And, I don't know what you've covered or what you've said, so if I'm repeating something, I apologize.
All good.
But I think when you're looking at a draft class, if you're extending two guys out of the draft class, but when it's all said and done, I think that would be considered not a failure, right? But I mean, it would be an average, okay draft class. Now, if you're extending 3 or 4 guys or more, then it would be an exceptional one, right? So, from what you've covered, because I came in right around when you were covering Micah's year.
Okay.
So that's where I started. I don't know did you cover before, like with CD and Diggs and all them as well?
Yeah, we did. We did the 2020 draft.
Okay. Because you look at it, and Micah, of course, we knew that basically when we drafted him that he was going to get extended and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it was pretty much barring some major injury or something like that, he's going to stick around. And even now, even if he didn't play the next 2 years, we're still extending him because of how he started. Knock on wood, though. I think the conversation gets into the rest of the guys. Like Kelvin Joseph, clearly nobody would want to extend him with what he's done so far. Osa is really the only one I can think of that has a major conversation on that.
Yeah.
I think I would. Nothing crazy, though, but I think I would personally. And then everybody else, I mean, if they want to stick around for, vet minimums or whatever, then sure. But for the most part, I think we can, definitely improve those guys with somebody else.
Yeah.
But on average, if you got two guys that you can extend out of a draft class, I think you did a good enough job. But when you have a year like last year where everybody had a good rookie year, a few guys had a good rookie year.
Are you saying average 2 guys on average is good just in general, right? For like NFL's sake?
Yeah, for NFL, like after it's all said and done, it's the end of the contract. It's time to extend. If there's 2 guys that you can look and be like, "Yep, I would take both of those guys."
Yeah,
it was a good draft class for you.
I would say you're probably not wrong. I don't know what the average is or whatnot. You're probably not wrong with that. But I say for Dallas, I think I think they had to hit on more. They have to hit on more than 2, unless those 2 are like the 2020 draft class, right? Where you got 2 All Pros, 2 Pro Bowlers. Then you'd be like, well, whatever happens after that, whatever. But when you got a draft class of 11 guys and we're debating if you sign 2 of them, right? Like, yeah, we all like Osa and we believe Osa. I think Osa's trending to where you can re-sign him. But I got the question I posed, like right now, if you had to go to the table right now and sign any of these guys for market value, above market value, I think the only one you could talk about is Micah. Everyone else, I think you got to see more from like more consistency from. And that's me being a big Osa fan. And I really want them to re-sign Osa if he ascends to that ability. But a draft class of 11 and you only come out with 1 or 2 and you're the Cowboys where you don't rely on anything really but the draft, I would consider that as a bit of a letdown, bit of a disappointment. But this was old Cowboys. Maybe we're in the new Cowboy territory where they go out and they use some of these comp picks, these day 2, day 3 picks to get established guys, and they're not relying on 11 draft picks to contribute.
Yeah, and I was speaking more of a general like NFL sake.
Yeah.
Right. Now, like we were point with the Cowboys, I was like, that's all you're doing. Then yeah, you got to hit on at least 4 to 5 guys a season, right? Like a draft that you're keeping around, because otherwise you're just literally going to run out of players if you don't do it that way. But I think the biggest part of it is like, for instance, this last one where you have Tyler Smith, you have Sam Williams, you have Ferguson for sure, and you have Hendershot, which is a funny side note is with Hendershot, actually in season, I liked Hendershot more. It wasn't until I went back and I looked at everything and all that kind of stuff. So, you have 2 guys there, which I think they'll kind of feed on themselves as far as contract talks when it comes to those guys later on if they continue on the path that they're on now. They'll limit what you have to. Yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. This is pure conjecture and projection here. But if they continue, they'll feed off of each other to the point where you won't have to pay either one of them top of the market kind of things. I know it's a long time ago, but kind of when Aaron Hernandez and Gronk were there at the same time, they didn't have to really pay both of those guys a whole bunch of money, but they.
Well, of course they did. The other one went to jail.
Well, yeah, I mean, yes. but what I was going for is because it happened allegedly around the time that it happened right around the time that he was supposed to get extension, and everybody was like, well, because Gronk's here, they won't have to pay him that much. That was the conversation.
He got paid.
Right?
Yeah, Aaron Hernandez got paid. He got paid.
Yeah, he did get paid. But they were – anyway. I digress. But what the last thing, and I'll let you go, is if they can at least continue this whole trend of what they did this season, then I really don't think it truly matters. Because if you're filling your holes in the trade market or free agency, then you're just looking for some guy that pops that puts you over the hump, right? And I think that this season they've afforded themselves the ability to do that. So, like, a lot of us are saying, like, hey, I really don't care where they go as long as it's not egregious, right? But, I just want the best player there. So I think with this season moving forward, because of what you're talking about now, if we look at it from a year from now, we won't necessarily say, hey, this guy didn't hit, this guy didn't hit, that guy didn't hit, and it mattered so much. It's just, hey, we didn't really have any guys that popped, and it was disappointing because we didn't have that one rookie all-star kind of guy that we've been having here recently.
You would see. I would love for them to continue that trend though, like to have a guy that is one of those guys. Like, you still want that no matter how deep your team is. But my whole thing with doing this exercise is to kind of point out that, you know, if the Cowboys do what you were talking about, like they continue to add these proven guys, these dudes per se in free agency or in trades, then you don't got to rely on an entire damn draft class. Like, I thought it was, somebody said in the chat, I think they said it was silly that we were trying to keep 11 dudes. I couldn't believe they didn't use those picks to move up and get somebody. But I think they look back at 2021 and said, what are we doing? You know, we got 9 picks. We had 11 then. We kept all 11. We didn't move up or down. We didn't trade. We kept all 11 in 2022. My bad. 2021? Yeah, 2021. They didn't make any trades or anything like that. And they selected all their guys. And now look, half of those dudes aren't even, no, I'm sorry. All but 2 of those dudes are not starters, and barely any of them are contributing outside of those 2 dudes. So I think they got to understand that you can make moves when you have all those draft picks. That's a smart way to do business. And baby steps, I'm going to take it. Look, they ain't going out here signing the Von Millers of the world, but they're making quality trades like this during that week. And that's baby steps to me. And I think that's how they got to do it. You're a good drafting team. I don't know why you think that you can't risk these type of picks to get proven guys, because you can draft well. You can hit on a Micah. You can hit on the CD, Trayvon Diggs early on, Tyler Smith. You know how to hit early. And if you can hit early with 1 or 2 dudes, then you can kind of deal with the fall off after that if you are adding proven dudes in between.
No, it really doesn't matter if you have 11 picks, if 7 of those guys are never going to see the field or make the team possibly. Or even if you had 9 guys make the team, what does that say about your team?
And that was my whole point before we made any trade. I was sitting here like, you mean to tell me Dallas is going to take 20 players in 2-year span out of the draft and keep all 20? That, to me, that just tells me your team ain't good enough.
Yeah, for sure. But I'll let you get back to it, man. That's all I got for you this morning, brother.
There it is, 11-9. Appreciate you, DJ. So it was 11 2021 and 9 in 2022, and I believe 9 this year too, if I'm not mistaken, right? When they have 9 picks this year. Or they traded 2. They traded 2, so they're down like 6 or 7 if they had 8 or 9. So we talking about 11, 9 to 9 again. We talking, come on, man. You know, if your drafted guys are supposed to be improving like that, there's no way that all these rookies should be making the team. Right? So that's all I'm asking Dallas to do is to remain competitive in those trade markets and in the free agent market, to the point where we're not relying on all of our draft picks to have to be dudes right away. That's all that is. All right, with that said, man, good stuff today. Go ahead, close these lines up. We're going to hit the super chats and get up out of there. We ended up actually going about our normal time. But we usually be in overtime by now. I think we just got one, so should be quick here. Boom. Bow. Yep. Tom dropped one.
Super chat.
Tom said, Brumley, please revoke KJ studio access. You gotta watch. You gotta follow us over on the Volume, man. Vashon Boy live show. Yeah, man. Look, I don't care about him rapping. I don't care about that. Rap. Do your thing. Do it in your off time. Don't try to live that life. Go make your little album, you know, when it ain't time to try to get this bread and get better. I don't care that he's gonna be a rapper, you know. Cole Beasley rapped and he was fantastic. So, but the problem is Cole Beasley wasn't out here trying to live that life. Grayson, thank you, Sugar Daddy One. Grayson was the kid's name. So yeah, you cannot miss shows, man. Make sure y'all check us out later on the Volume, about 3:06. Call the Volume 3:06. And me and Vosh will be rocking, talking Cowboys today, I think. Today's Monday. So if any news break between now and then, we'll probably be talking about it. And then we'll be talking about it tomorrow on the morning show. And later, Mo will be back on for the second episode this week of A to Z Sports Primetime. Of course, he also has his articles that he writes on A to Z Sports Dallas.com. Make sure y'all check that out. No. I ain't saying Cole was a great rapper. I'm saying he was rapping, but he was also a good player. So you can if you can juggle both, cool. But Cole wasn't out here Malibu's most wanted. Traffic, looking from a chat. Like, he wasn't out here trying to live that life. That goddamn KJ, though. I don't know what he's thinking. But let's hope that he's matured and he can come back. He's got the talent, man. He just got to put it together. All right. Good show today. Good stuff today. Appreciate y'all for rocking with me. Bomb Squad. Sincerely. I'll be on later again, like I said. Hit me up on Twitter if you want to rap some more. If anything drops, we can talk about that. Tomorrow, I got to reach out to Foot, see what position group we're going to talk about tomorrow. Either, I ain't going to say anything. I'm going to say because it should be Foots, but maybe we'll mix it up. We'll see what happens. But tomorrow should be our on the clock series, draft series, where we focus on a number of players in the upcoming draft and how they fit here with the Cowboys. All right. With that said, we're going to hit this button, man. Funny thing, Mr. Lockhart, we probably should have just made it volume 316. Because we truly do go on at 316 more than we go on at 306. And y'all be thinking it's just me. It ain't just me. I ain't gonna be throwing me under the bus. All right, love y'all. We out here. Peace. Set up part of the problem.
Bomb Squad!